Cat TV is celebrating 30 years of community media. Help support Cat TV's next 30 years by becoming a member today. Your membership will help us continue covering meaningful, local content. Thank you for supporting your local community media station.
Let's try this again, okay? The June meeting of the Village of North Bennington Trustees, partial Zoom and some people in person. I'd like to stay as closely as I can to the agenda. I don't believe the introductions are necessary. It is the same board members that are always here. But if anyone would like to introduce yourself, please take the next 30 seconds and do so.
Well,
all right.
Scott could introduce himself.
Yes, Scott Creedy, trustee.
Thank you.
He's on the owl.
Okay.
You can see him.
So let's start off and try to keep this to our agenda and on time. Reviewing and approving the minutes of Tuesday, May 10th, 2022. I'm hoping everyone had a chance to read and review these minutes. And if there is any questions or requests, please raise a hand to be acknowledged.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes from last month.
Am I hearing? Did I
Second.
hear a second?
Yes.
That was
Thank
right.
you. Yeah, it's a lot of reverberation still that was not here previously.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor? Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes.
Lori, are
Second,
you guys also hearing reverb?
no,
Okay, thank you.
very strange, I was not previous. The next item is looking at and approving our minutes. I'd like to start with the payroll warrant.
Hey, Mary, when you're speaking, can you keep your face towards the camera? When you turn sideways, you get very muffled.
Thank you. The payroll warrant for June in the amount, or that we are now approving, but it is actually for the month of May. It is for $10,244.02. If you've had a chance to look at that, I'd just like to point out that the payroll company fees are on this report. They are $53, roughly $53 a week, or a bi-weekly on here. You also see recorded here is the employee and the employer payroll tax withholdings. Previously, you would see the payroll tax withholdings on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis recorded at the bottom of the expense warrant. This is now just a little different system. Thus, this payroll warrant now includes a few items that were previously on the expense warrant. Are there questions? Doug is available, or Doug and Lori and I are here to answer.
I make a motion, we accept this warrant.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The second item I'd like to look at is the late May warrant. These, we will typically have these because we meet once a month and there are oftentimes expenses that need to be paid prior to the next monthly meeting. These expenses are in the amount of $309,051.91. Really nothing out of the ordinary. just the typical expenses that came in a little bit later than usual. The detail of these Doug has included in the detail spreadsheet that he sent out. Are there questions?
I don't know where these are.
This one, there was two
Yeah,
warrants.
okay.
Here, you can look at my copy if you don't have it printed out.
Well, I did print it,
No,
but that's not it.
Take a look at Doug's.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, okay.
We can even sign that one.
Yeah, I'm making
Yeah.
a pile right here. And I've got the ones from last month.
And for fairly new trustees, if the new trustees would like to meet with us to review these documents so that you learn how to read them, because they are a little bit different than you might have seen before, we can do that so that we can all be a little bit better prepared and know what we're looking at. Again, are there questions on the later May expenses?
I'm just gonna clarify for Ray, he was just asking, so this late May warrant, these were bills that came in basically a day or two of the meeting, but we had to get them paid before the end of the month. So Lori inputs them to QuickBooks, I get the checks cut and get those ones paid, because they're as need basis, versus, ones that can wait until the June warrant.
Right.
And as mentioned, this happened last month and it is likely to happen in future months.
Yep,
In the past, sometimes we included that all on the same one. This time, from now on, we're like really separating it out. No.
okay, so it's breaking it out from the ones that we just made a motion to pay.
Nope.
Yes.
Truly in May versus truly in June.
Right, so the next one that'll be coming will be the June one.
Yeah,
The detail has both
right,
the late warrant and the current warrant in the detail.
okay.
Okay, well, I would make a motion to approve the late May warrant for the value of $3,951.91.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next one and the last warrant is the typical monthly expenses that we are approving tonight. This is in the amount of $33,635.02. The one largest item on here is $8,528.64. That is the mobile speed detector and trailer. The Dufresne Group is another larger expense on here, $3,810.01. That is, will be covered under grant funding, and that is for the culvert on Overley Road, some engineering and boring studies, et cetera, and I'm sure Ray will update us on this project. The VLCT property and casualty, that is the third quarter. Annual billing includes the water department as amount as well. This is not considered an expense for this year. I actually reclassified this as a prepaid expense.
On the, I have a question on the speed device. Is that the total amount for the whole package, or was this one payment of others, then there will be others?
No, this is the full amount for the unit and the trailer that it sits on.
Very good. Okay.
And that's a rental, a lease?
No, that's.
No,
That's-
we own it.
We own it? Oh, okay.
We will also update that it further when we get to our old business.
All right.
Matthew just joined us. Matthew, for conversation, we're now on the June warrant in the amount of $33,635.02.
Thank you, Mary.
Is there any other question or discussion that Lori or Doug or myself might answer? If not, is someone willing to motion?
I'll move that we pay the warrant.
Thank you.
as-
Second?
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
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 Trying not to move my head and glance sideways at my papers.
I think when you look to the right, it's okay. It's rougher.
Okay. Since Norm is here and has had a long day and probably a very long last week, if Doug does not mind, may we let Norm go ahead and provide his report?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Fine by me.
The floor is yours, Norm.
Okay, it's a pretty simple report. We had a couple big breakdowns in our sweeper, but we believe we have those all taken care of. We got our speed radar sensor, as Mary said, it's a one-time purchase. We've started to move it around the village in different places. We'll change it to streets and, change the speed limit sign as needed. Our summer intern, basically from Bennington College, has started. So as you see him around town, introduce yourself. We've removed a couple big, huge trees on Park Street with our contractor. That went pretty smooth. And we're just starting into our summer maintenance. We got a couple pipes to change in the ground. And, the culvert job on Overley Road is going a little slow with the engineering process. We had a setback. We were supposed to be able to move it a little bit towards the railroad tracks, just a smidge, and now it's not possible because of the size of it. So, we'll just have to deal with it. And we've already. All right, everybody still there?
Yes.
Yep.
Somebody was calling. I don't know how it worked, but so anyways, that's still to come. Hopefully we'll be able to do it this construction season. If not, I did check and our grant is good till through next year. But as soon as we get the culvert, be able to buy it, we've decided that we're going to buy it and have it on our, in our yard or whatever. So that's pretty much about it, unless anybody's got any questions.
Yes,
Yep, Mary.
Last meeting, the trustees had approved the Bank Street sidewalk, the expenditure for the paving there. Has
Yep.
that been scheduled? Were you able to get that scheduled?
It's not scheduled yet. After the last month's meeting, we talked about the sidewalk and the guardrail and the fence. And that has not been scheduled yet. I will follow up with Sweet Petros Concrete.
Okay.
He knows we're going to do it this summer.
Okay.
So that's all set. I know Lafayette has the rail in front of the skateboard park scheduled, but they usually tie that all up around, other work here in town because they come so far. And the fence job, they were supposed to be done this calendar year, so before July.
All right. When we get to the treasurer's report, we can talk a little bit about the funds that we have remaining this year to earmark for highway projects, which is significant, but the paving will take up, or the sidewalk will take up a bit. The culvert will take up a bit. When it comes to the two projects at the skate park, whether we include them in the highway or whether we include them under parks and then use ARPA funds for that can be determined. It does not need to be determined at this meeting, simply putting it out there so we know for the future. Do we have audience in attendance?
Before you move on, Tara has a
I have a
comment or a
I
question.
question.
did see that, but I'm just asking if there was audience to be recognized.
No, not today.
Okay, then I see Tara to be recognized.
Thanks. Regarding the speed monitor, have we noticed any changes? The only reason I ask is there's been chatter on the North Bennington Facebook group. There's a gentleman who's been talking to sheriffs and Bennington PD and state troopers and everyone about how to slow things down in the whole village. And I was curious to know if we had seen any changes, because the conversation about that device was, oh yeah, those don't do anything.
I haven't. I don't sit there and babysit it. We
Yeah.
just put it there and slow it down. I will say when we are putting it up, people see it. You know what I mean? You catch that one car. It's a deterrent device. It flashes, it lights up. I would say that, if you are a reasonable law-abiding citizen and just going a little faster than you presume, it will straighten it out. If you are a reckless endangerment to society, you are going to do whatever it is you want to do.
I have heard some comments from people that are pleased to see it there. And again, because it's fairly new, once it gets its way to circulate around everywhere, and although it was scheduled for old business, let's talk about it now because Norm is here. And so the previous schedule that we talked about, it would start on Mechanic, where Norm was able to keep an eye on it, went both sides on Mechanic. Then it went to Bank Street, Upper Bank, both sides there.
Right.
After
We just
that,
moved it over to the other side at the school, at the little school right before the sidewalk. And then next week, Fulton Street.
Okay. And just so trustees know, because it has to be secured to something, occasionally it is on someone's personal property, and Norm always communicates with the homeowner or the adjacent homeowners. So people are well aware of what it is and who's watching it. Pardon me. After this, the idea is to move it to Houghton Street for a little bit of time, maybe a couple of weeks, because we've had several complaints from Houghton Street, especially up closer to the park. After that, it will go on Water Street coming in and out of town, and then on Main Street coming in and out of town. And we will either then do the same circulation, or certainly if you hear of other places, or you personally, any trustee has a request for another place to go, let's get that in our list. We will then.
It wouldn't hurt to throw it on Park Street every once in a while, because that seems to be a drag strip at night.
Thank you. We will add that to the list. And this can be an ongoing living thing where we've got it for the rest of our lifetimes.
I have another question.
Please.
Did we research the kind that other communities have that are mounted? It's a speed limit sign mounted on a post with the flashing thing below it. And I wondered if those are just too expensive, or whether we know what they cost.
Tara?
We did. I'm remembering all of it, so I'm just going to pop in. We did discuss them. They were about 7,000 compared to the 10 for the mobile one. So we decided to get the mobile one so we could move it here, there, and everywhere, versus having a stationary one that was fixed. Right. That costs, a little bit more. And if we needed 2 of them, then it would have been more than the cost of the mobile one.
Right. So it is a matter of cost then.
It was. It was decided that it was easier to have one that moves.
Right.
Please keep that thought in mind, because I wouldn't mind circling back to this discussion a little bit later on when we wrap up with our old business, because I do want to make sure that we're responsive to all residents who have had questions or concerns with this. Are there other questions for Norm since he's patiently waiting?
I guess I'd like to know, have other trustees gotten done their road assessments that we talked about a few weeks ago? Looking at road conditions and grading the roads and all that.
Several of us did meet with Norm. He was kind enough to meet with us at 7:15, 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30, whenever it was. John Lamson came along with that. Scott Creedy has a copy of this. He and I sat and chatted on the back deck, masked, of course. So we started that. Now, I did tell people at that in-person meeting that I would try to get everybody a map. Norm procured a map, but it's really tiny. It's hard to blow up, so it's not doing much. However, those of us who live here, it's not going to hurt us. It's not going to stop us starting our surveys by not having a map. We know what roads we walk on. I personally have started. I don't know if anybody else has.
Barely.
Does anyone need more copies?
How about the rating form? I only have the one on the back. I can send it through my copier and make copies.
Ray, I will make you a nice color copy.
It doesn't have to be color. I've got
It's easier to see it color, trust me.
It's the rating form, which
Oh,
doesn't have
yes.
to be color.
Oh, yes, and that's fine. I can make a bunch of those because I promised Scott I'd make him several copies too. So if anyone does not have a copier, speak up, send me an email, and I'll make copies and deliver them to you.
Well, yeah,
Matt,
for what I'm likely to do.
are you speaking up?
No, I would like a copy because,
Yes.
yeah. I'd also like to say with respect to the traffic calming, the best thing that ever happened on Prospect Street was the entire deterioration of the road. Slows them right down. I'm happy if this goes back to rubble. I don't care.
Well, the other thing is the changes around the bank slowed traffic right through that section pretty good. There's still some people who think that they're entitled to run as fast as possible through.
I think the issue isn't always speed. It's this different animal of the modified mufflers. You know, I think that
the noise part, yes.
Yeah. Robert Nowak has done really an incredible job on his own, just in social media, getting people riled up about this. So is Tom Fells. It's a different animal that we're dealing with now. It's not speed. It's the other night, it was four-wheelers and dirt bikes coming down the road. They had just emerged out of the primordial ooze of the forest and decided that the highway was a place to have some fun. And I think the police presence is an important part of this. And I think that's the issue we really have to get at on top of speed. The minute that started showing up in social media, police were suddenly here. I saw 4 or 5 times that they were doing, they weren't sitting and doing speed checks, but it was nice to see them. I kind of forgot what they looked like.
Nice to know. Any other questions for Norm on any other highway related matter? Ray.
One other thing, I saw this email from Kathy Griffith, who lives on the corner of Hillside and Park Street, about noise ordinance. Is that a reference to the kind of noise that Matthew's bringing up? Do you know?
I don't know what email that is, and I think if we are going to be talking about ordinances in a moment, so
She asked whether we had passed an ordinance on.
yeah, we are going to be talking about ordinances, Ray.
We
Yeah.
can, yeah, we can put that off until we get to ordinance.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Norm, do you have any questions or concerns or comments for us?
No, nothing that, no, I'm all set.
Okay.
All right.
All right, going once, going twice. Questions for Norm? Thank
Thank
you.
Okay.
Thank you. Norm.
Thank you, Norm. You're welcome to stay with us the rest of the meeting if you wish.
Oh, you're muted, Norm.
Okay. Moving on the agenda. Let's go back to treasurer's report. And Doug, I'm leaving it to you.
Sure, yep, so we've discussed the warrants already, so those are the bulk of the expenditures. You have the cash balances, which is all reconciled as of 5/31. The only note that I'll make for the account balances, we did pay what should be the final payment to the graded school district, a little over 133,000 from the tax account that was balancing from the state versus what had been paid out at this point in time. The state still has a couple of things, so there might be a small amount after that, but that should be the bulk of the final payment for the tax year season, however you want to look at it. Everything else is on track. Mary and I are going to finish funding the last few accounts from the current year budget over the next month or so. I would say probably, what, Mary, 3/4 of them we've already done so far.
Correct, Doug. There's only, I believe, 3, and they all have to be done by the 30th of this month. So
Yep.
2 of them are going to be new accounts, and they are the new reserves that we set up. One was a tree reserve, and then I think there was another garage reserve.
So if there's any questions, myself or Mary will take care of them. If not, then that's all I've got.
Well, I did want to, Doug will become expert on this next report, but he's up to his ears and doing a fabulous job, I might add, of getting things done. But the other one that I had sent you was the budget status report, and that is showing where we are. This is the similar format, basically the same format that you will see in the annual report. The middle sections shows where we are, budget versus actual through 11 months, essentially. A couple of things are 12 months, some things are 10 months, but we'll call it 11. And then just for information, what the budget is as of now. Mark, can I have that? I need that right. What that budget is as of next month. There's nothing in here that really concerns me yet that we're going to be, oh wow, we are like way off of, we're way over our budget in what we've spent. However, I did try to make a few notes in here, and the big items are under the highway department, as previously mentioned, there is $36,000 left to be spent on a combination of highway culverts and sidewalks. It's actually more than that because we have $13,000 extra from the state. We got an entire quarter of extra state highway funds. That helps. And the $50,000 that we carried over from the previous fiscal year into this one, we still have. So between the pending sidewalk project, the Overley Road culvert project, there are a couple of other things that did not come up at this meeting because they were not on the agenda, but Norm and I are gathering information on a couple of other projects, and we will have that to you by next meeting. This does not need to be spent by the end of the year, but when we sit next month and early August to design our budget, or to set our tax rate, excuse me, we do want to know what we're using these funds for. Highway funds must be used for highway purposes. Everything else on this budget gets rolled into admin, and that can be used to offset a tax rate. We can offset a tax rate if there are projects that we have budgeted that we will not do. But that's a discussion for later. But for the newer trustees, that's what this is showing. So in a sense, it's really kind of good news. But if you have questions, please email us at any time. We do not need to just wait for these meetings to ask these questions. That's it. Any other questions for Doug or myself?
Computer.
Matthew, are you there?
Can you hear me?
No, Matthew, we can't.
Well, that's.
Yes, now we can, barely.
I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Me too.
Not muted. I don't know. The sound should be coming.
Are there people outside the depot?
No, we just closed the
No,
door.
we have the door. Yeah, we have the door closed. And Mary, when you speak straight, we hear you perfectly fine here.
Okay. No, I'm with Matthew. I hear an awful lot of almost like static in the background.
Company of ducks or something outside the building. You know.
Yeah.
There's no outward noises that we can hear right now.
Yeah, it's very quiet.
Frankly, since there is no public, if we'd like to turn off the owl, we could try that. I don't know if that would make a difference.
I hear it worse when I'm muted, and I don't understand why, because there's not much noise here, but I'm going to mute.
To
Matthew,
keep our,
did you have something to say?
There's that.
there, okay, to keep our meeting on track, if there are no other questions under the treasurer's report, I would like to move on.
Okay.
I do have one comment because we don't have a section for Parks and Rec. But Parent Recreations, Alyssa Del Tufo, did want the trustees to know that the Parent Rec is still planning their July fireworks. They're going to do them on the 3rd of July. They have always used Welling Field to launch them. Previously would have notified Mark Boudreau, and just wanted to make sure on this meeting, in case the trustees had any questions or concerns. This is an annual event that's always happened, notifying unless someone's raising their hand with a question. All right. Moving along then. The DRB. Is this, I'm thinking this might be the appropriate place, Tara, to discuss the ordinance questions, since it has something to do with
Development. We can certainly talk about that right now.
and you may have other things to report here.
I'm trying to remember, did we have a meeting last month? Yes.
Well, yes.
Yeah, so the DRB met once again to discuss the issue issue of Honeysuckle Lane. We had the defendant or what have you, and his lawyer in the room with us, and we just discussed how, though they argued that it is not a violation of the home business or home office business bylaw, that they weren't doing any business at the location on 201 Honeysuckle, so it wasn't an issue anyway, and that they had moved everything to Morse Road. The neighbors discussed that there was still a substantial amount of equipment that was on the property, and they still had concerns regarding the wetlands that had a gravel road kind of pushed through and dumped there. But our findings, once again, were that they are not in violation because they're not conducting business there, and no action could be taken from the DRB unless a violation actually occurred. The wetland issue is a state issue, and I think there might have been another one that was also a state issue. But other than that, that was the progress that we made at that meeting. Questions? Oh, Doug has a question.
Just out of curiosity, who was the attorney for the homeowner?
Mhm.
If you know, if you don't know.
I
it's fine.
can know. I have to look it up.
The last name of the homeowner?
No, I was just asking who the attorney was that was representing them.
I can tell you. Hold on. Our lovely clerk. Jim Anderson. Yeah,
Thank you.
I can read. We have, our findings actually.
And the owners of the properties.
The owner of all the properties. There's a lot of them.
Oh,
Yeah, there are a lot of abutters to this land. So
just the fellow who was conducting
Possibly.
business.
yeah, Polar.
Yeah.
I can send this to you if you want.
No, I know the names.
Okay.
And
Yes.
are they building a house?
They are building a barn that has been permitted from our previous zoning administrator, and that barn is perfectly within the boundaries of the ordinance, or not the ordinances, of the bylaws. There have been questions about whether it's going to be used for some kind of business, but until it is, there is no violation to be had.
Right. But they're not building a house.
No,
a
well,
residence.
not on 201 Honeysuckle. There are plans to build on the attached lot, which is his, I believe, father-in-law's property. So there will be a house built in a different property that is not Honeysuckle.
Okay. And is this next to the Bennington school?
That's the property that the father-in-law owns.
All right, so it goes from College Road all the way through to Honeysuckle?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
More questions?
So does the state follow up on the wetlands?
They should be.
Are
They already issued,
aware of it?
yeah, they are aware of it. They've already told him it's a violation, and it now falls to them to follow up on their issues. The findings are about 70 words if you want me to read it.
No, that's fine. I think you did a very good job
Okay.
presenting.
Okay.
Actually, Sarah, I would like to hear the findings.
Matthew would like to hear the findings.
Oh, you would, okay. Just get out of it, okay. The appellant was previously required to cease his carrier business as evidenced by storage of commercial vehicles at 201 Honeysuckle Lane unless and until approved for such use was authorized by the Development Review Board and a zoning permit issued. Based on testimony and observations by the zoning administrator, with no evidence presented to the contrary, the appellant continued the activities in question. Following that order, and a violation notice was issued. The vehicle storage and related activities at the site have since been discontinued. However, the property was being used in violation of the earlier Development Review Board order at the time that the zoning administrator issued the notice of violation. The conclusion and decision: the notice of violation issued by the zoning administrator is affirmed. As the offending activities have ceased, no further action is required at this time.
Thank you.
Sure.
Tara, would you like to briefly discuss the questions that have come up about where we stand with ordinances?
Sure.
Thank you.
I contacted Jim Sullivan as our BCRC connection to find out what steps we had or hadn't completed in order to get the ordinances through, because we did approve them, I think, in February. And there are a couple of things like public notices and in a newspaper that have to still occur for them to be official. I asked Lori if we could get that done, and I see she's on the phone right now. So I think our last and final step would be to put them out to the public so that they can be fully adopted and fully in effect.
And what is our plan to get them to the public?
The steps that Jim sent me basically said they have to be posted in a newspaper, and hold on one sec.
Like the entire ordinance?
It's possible.
Yeah, so the entire ordinance has to be posted in a newspaper. There's lots of other places we can post them as well. They have to be posted in a certain number of places, Tara. So, you know, I mean, we've put them on Front Porch Forum before. We've put them in the post office. We put them, you know, but it does have to be in the banner. And that's how people find out, Mary.
Yeah, yes.
And we can ask Rob to put it on the Fund for North Bennington page. Our page will be ready, our website will be ready July 1st. But
hopefully, but it will be ready in July, may not be July 1st.
Okay.
But we can always put a notice in saying that these ordinances are out and here are all the locations they are physically or digitally available.
Yeah, that's fine, but you do have to say that you have to put the whole ordinance in the paper. You have to post the entire.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Well, that's going to be like a paper's worth.
It's going to be like a whole page.
Yeah. Okay, so be it.
It's a legal notice.
Yeah.
Well, those are the regulations that we're following, Tara, from Jim,
Yeah.
correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm all for it. I understand. We just
Yeah.
have to get it done because I've had queries from our various constituents
Yes.
that have been
Yes.
eager to have an enforceable ordinance related to their issues.
All right. Good. Thank you. Thank you
So,
very
yeah,
much.
So Lori, let's get those going. Do you still have copies of the ones that we sent out at the original meeting?
Yeah, I should have, but just resend, Tara, to me, and I'll send them directly over to the paper.
And
Okay.
could I be included in that since I don't believe I've ever seen them all?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Okay.
Tara,
Alright.
are you finished talking? Are you finished, Tara? So I
Yeah.
was on the phone just a minute ago because Chief Ed Harrington just called and said that there's been some new law changes with fireworks, and that may not occur on July 3rd if paperwork has not been signed by the village trustees and the company who is going to perform the fireworks, set off the fireworks on July 3rd.
So if Parent Rec calls the fire chief, they can find out what this is?
Absolutely.
Is
That
there a
would be
specific form that the trustees need to sign?
according to Ed Harrington, yes. And so
Thank you.
I would suggest that Alyssa, that you tell Alyssa to call Ed.
Thank you. I will do that tonight. She actually is in a meeting. She let me know that she is in a meeting, but she gave me her phone number and I will call her immediately after we.
And do you have Ed's number, Mary?
I do.
Okay, great, good. You could just give that.
I would like to see this ordinance or this state law, state policy, because it probably is really trying to eliminate any sort of, by referencing a company doing it, they want professionals doing it. They don't want.
That's, yeah, that's what it is.
And I don't think that there's any.
Then Matthew, what I think I will do is I will also get a hold of Ed Harrington and ask him for that reference, and I will share that with all of the trustees.
I'll try to look for it.
Thank you.
That could shut down the thing,
Mhm.
or we ignore it. Because I can't imagine there's much enforcement.
Well, apparently the North Bennington Fire Department has been notified by the Bennington Police Department that if it wasn't signed and there wasn't a company doing it, there would be arrests made on July 3rd at that time.
Ooh. Good to know.
And that is the message that I just got from Ed. So
We will. Thank you. That's very timely. Is there anything else for Tara before we move on to, I will ask Matt to talk about the planning committee, if there's nothing else for Tara. Matt, you're up on planning.
So there are some openings. Commission board that hasn't met in probably 4.5, 5 years. It's a little weird because definitely one of the members of the board has left town. The other one still lives here, and I imagine his term is up. I'm not sure. And so, but there are presumably two openings. There are two people very interested in part of the planning commission, and they'd be two very good candidates for it. And because I haven't had a chance to talk to Brian Vargo, appointed to the board at some point, pre-pandemic, I don't even know what the term lengths are. I'm comfortable in recommending the appointment of Mary Rogers and Kim Hall to the planning commission. They both really want to be engaged, and should it be that Fargo is still on the board, I will probably step down. In fact, I bet we haven't even. I can imagine, even though the rest of us are on the board, we haven't been reappointed. But maybe more vacancies than the two. And that's got to get figured out. And I haven't done it. So, but I think we can certainly appoint two very eager individuals to the board, and then let them flesh out. So it is my recommendation that appoint Mary Rogers and Kim Hall to.
And that's a motion we have to make, or?
I think maybe I made the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All in favor? I am abstaining.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I look forward to this. I think there's lots of work to do, and we've got just a good community to work with. To make things
Mary,
happen.
why did we lose your sound?
I don't know.
There you go, lean forward.
Yeah.
Gotta be right in the, I thought you were on mute there.
No. Oh my goodness.
No, you know, listen, I've been on that board for way too long, and there's not been much to deal with in the last many years. I'm sure it would seek some relief, and so it's an opportunity for other community members to get engaged.
Matthew, I hope you will always be available. You are just a wealth of knowledge and just an encyclopedia of things. So I hope you will always be available to perhaps sit in on a meeting or advise as need be.
Of course.
Thank you. Any other discussion on that topic? Moving along, fire department. Do we have any update from the fire department? Any comment from Tara or Doug?
No, the only thing I sent them their up to date, their portion of the year-to-date budget. Ed acknowledged that he received it, said thank you. That was the only contact I had in the past month. Nothing else to report from me.
Thank you. Water department, I've got nothing to report unless anybody else does. Okay. New business. There was no new business that brought up at the beginning of the meeting to add to the agenda, but if there is anything.
Oh, Mary, the one thing I would mention is I emailed you again just before the meeting when I was still on the road. You're right about the LEMP. We've got to figure out why there are issues with missing items on that form.
Okay.
But thank you for taking this on and having this, as you mentioned, meeting with somebody from who is it they're meeting with?
From the what is it? The state, good grief. There's so many acronyms of state people. It's an alphabet soup.
But they're going to help. They're going to help you.
Yes. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Let's get the solid.
Okay.
Janice many years ago now had this going real well, and then put it in my lap at a time when, you know, I phoned it in. But there was definitely a more complete plan than what you described. But of course, it needs updated with respect to phone numbers, contacts, and all that.
Do you think that we need to continue this meeting? Because I will have that answer on June 14th. Do we need to continue this meeting, or can we adopt that in July?
For years where we adopted it in October.
Okay.
I just think, I don't think that's a real issue.
Okay.
But I'm going to send a massive file that Janice handed down. And it has an example that might be useful. But again, updating contacts, you know, but more importantly, when you mentioned that there's various resources, that stuff exists. I don't know what.
Well, I will find out whatever I can and bring it back at the next meeting. Okay. Under our old business, the LEMP we just discussed, the local emergency action plan, so we can knock that one off. We already also talked under the old business about the speed detector and the speed matters in the village. The last item under the old business is the ARPA request. I really do not expect this to be a lengthy discussion, but I did send out 2 documents to you all a few weeks ago. One was showing the detail. One is showing the detail that is needed for the village school request to reimburse them for their in-person voting. Yes, this is, sound is getting worse.
Doug, can you mute the owl for a second?
So let's hold on just a second. I'm going to try to switch from the owl to the computer's audio. So just bear with me for just a minute. Okay, Mary, go ahead and say something.
Okay, so
Nope,
actually,
still on the owl.
okay. But if the rest of you can hear me fine, the 2 documents I'd like you to refer to are what was in the email, and Scott has a hard copy of them. One is a total request for the North Bennington graded school district in total of $6,194 to reimburse them for out-of-pocket expenses for mail-in voting versus in-person voting. The board had previously approved this in March. At that time, I only had an estimate of a couple of the items that I've detailed on this document. It is important for the check to the graded school district to be dated, for the graded school district to receive this before the end of this fiscal year. So I am looking to see if there would be a motion to approve the sum total of $6,194 ARPA funds for the North Bennington graded school district, which is an increase of $1,187 from the previously approved grant.
So moved.
Thank you.
Any second?
Ray was the
Yeah,
I
second.
said the second.
You guys said it simultaneously.
Sorry.
All approve?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes. The second item was what Parent Rec had come and discussed last year. This is in the bigger document that I've sent, which is a little difficult to read, so let me just take a minute. The first column was the original amount that everybody had asked for to date. Now, other than the village parks amount, the other amounts were discussed by various representatives at the in-person special meeting that was held before the village annual meeting at Park McCullough. There was strong support for all of these. However, as the trustees later discussed, there might not be, we weren't sure whether there would be room to approve everyone's 100%. Through April, pardon me, we had approved the library's request. We had approved through today the full North Bennington graded school request. We approved the village school request for their things. We had approved the 2 requests for 2 of the half dozen or more from the Parent Rec to fund and community outreach specialists and do some sewer and pump repair. The requests that came in last month were for 15,500 for picnic tables and $7,500 for various signage. So we could actually approve those two requests, cap the amount of ARPA funds that would then go to Parent Rec, which would bring funding of 63% of their original total ask. We would still have funds available for the other organizations, the other two organizations who requested and were supported at the public meeting, and have $88,000 remaining for parks projects. Therefore, in my personal opinion, I feel we could easily approve this request and then cap future requests from Parent. Were there any other questions on the notes that I made, Tara?
Is there a certain time that we have to have spent the ARPA funds before?
Yes, 2 more years.
Oh,
We have
funny.
until 2026. We are in no hurry to do it, but the purpose of these funds was to help organizations within our community with urgent projects that they needed that they otherwise could not do.
Okay. So let's say 6 months from now, parent comes back and says, hey, you know, would you do this? They could ask again and we
No.
could.
No,
No?
no,
Okay.
we would award this on the stipulation that this is it for ARPA funds.
Okay.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
that has been discussed and agreed to. The 4 projects that we would fund are the most important to that organization.
Okay.
Matthew.
No, I agree. And it's true that you want to give this to people. These projects are all kind of time sensitive. I mean, not picnic tables per se and things like that, but you know, when the library came to us, it was urgent. I'm curious where we are with the library.
With the library, I can briefly tell you that the project, the entire project completion is now pushed back until August 1st, and it is specifically due to lack of supplies. Believe it or not, doors. You cannot find a proper door. And the doors in that building, fire doors, whatever you call it, the architecturally correct things, that's what's holding it up. You can't open without a bathroom door. We cannot get bathroom doors. So, however, there has been quite a lot of money already spent, and there is an email out to the project architect who's part of his duties are to help with grant funding, to be able to detail exactly what has been spent to date on the specific components of that work that were approved under ARPA funds. And I will have that answer by the next meeting, probably before, but I'll bring it to the next meeting.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm hoping for a motion for those for
Could you repeat, it's picnic tables and what? The additions?
Yes, Ray. It is 15,500 for picnic tables and 7,500 for various signage.
For what?
Signage,
For
signs.
Signage, yeah,
Education.
Yep, the educational signs that they
Thank
wanted
you.
to place around the lake.
right.
Uh,
how
And
many-
entrance signs,
How many picnic tables?
10.
Could
So
we
they're
start?
$50 a piece?
Yeah, we discussed this at the last meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
They are the kind of table that should last 30 years.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
but why not
Okay.
4 tables?
What?
Why not fewer tables to start? I mean,
No, frankly, I am not in favor of delaying this discussion anymore. We can vote on it. You can vote yes or no.
okay.
Well, I would make a motion to approve those last two items for Parent Rec and to meet 63% of their needs and requests.
Okay, I'll make a second.
Any further discussion?
I did not hear a second.
I gave the second.
Thank you. I could not hear that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any decline?
I'll say no, but
Thank you.
glad that it passed.
That's okay.
Yep.
That's what we're all here for, and we should all have our voice.
What was your name?
Yes,
Oh, yes, okay.
I didn't say it.
Okay.
Sorry, wait a minute.
I have no other business for this meeting. If anyone else does, please speak up. I will just tell you that for the next meeting, we have been advised that the fire department will be presenting at least one, maybe two. They're going to be presenting options for costs of new fire trucks. So that should be a lively discussion. I will see what information we can get to trustees in advance so that you all have time to look at it and formulate questions, concerns, etc., so that we're not just looking at something without ever having seen it before.
Great, sounds
Any-
good.
Okay, if you know of any other items, let's get them to Lori so that we can get them on the agenda and be prepared for that as well. Other than that, it is 8:10. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I so moved.
And
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Sayonara. Thank you all very much. Greatly appreciated.
Cat TV is celebrating 30 years of community media. Help support Cat TV's next 30 years by becoming a member today. Your membership will help us continue covering meaningful, local content. Thank you for supporting your local community media station.